80% is doing good test. So kind of get through, we're going to talk tonight about words that sell, but everything's going to be from a startup point of view. Okay, so how many of you in the audience have an idea about a company? You just have an idea, you haven't started it yet, okay? How many of you actually have a company? I mean, you're making revenue, whether it's red revenue or black revenue. Red or the black, okay. Then how many of you are in marketing or sales and hopefully pick up a tip tonight? Good, hopefully we'll give you a tip or two to kind of help you out. Okay, so startup point of view, you're smarter than the average, so we're going to go really fast. This is an hour, it's really packed, okay? We're going to review the rules so you know how to break them. Chris and I break them all the time, even our own rules. If you disagree, say it, but give a real-world example why. Don't just be one of those, I disagree with you because I like disagreeing.
Yeah,
disagree.
I recognize some faces over here that do a lot of testing.
Yes.
You back there, I know you do.
Yep.
So if you have test results that you've learned something new, we'd like to hear it.
Yeah, definitely share or some new website that we haven't discovered yet. We've actually learned a lot from you over the years of new things that pop up all the time. Like when we first started doing landing pages, we were using a site called Unbalance. We'll talk about that tonight. But now there's lead pages and other ones we've actually learned in the conference right here. So roll with examples. And then the last two ones were non-competitive, so feel free to share. And then let's do what it takes to be creative. And you'll see, you get very creative in marketing. That's what I like about marketing. It's very creative, but it's also very math-driven. So if you don't like math, marketing is not for you. I'll give you an idea. I have a background in chemistry from San Diego State, and you can see how much I'm really using it today up here. But I use the math part. All right, so we're going to talk about words that matter. I'll let you go next, Chris.
Okay, so what we're not going to talk about here is how to be a copywriter. Are there any copywriters here right now? Okay, so we're not going to talk about being a copywriter. We're going to talk about words from a marketing perspective. So the way I look at it, and as Randy look at it, is we work a lot with people who write very well, but how do you judge that copywriter? How do you look to see that you're doing all the right specific things? And also, how do you generate ideas? So we're going to come at it from just a general marketing perspective, not necessarily the copywriter. Okay, so A number one, what we're going to be talking about here is how we're going to drive to a sale. So we're not talking about copywriting in words as it's to be, let's say, generate entertainment value. We're going to talk about selling products. So when you're doing that, you're going to have to look at the old, start off with the old IATA rule. Anybody remember learning that in high school or college or something, right? So the funnel starting from lead to a close, you're going to be looking at attention, interest, desire, action. Gaining the attention of the individual, making sure that they're interested at least somewhat in your product, then creating the desire before asking for the close. Now, what we're also going to talk about specifically in this presentation is we're going to talk about what motivates an individual to read on or to buy, what expectations do they have and how do you manage those, and then how do you prioritize as a marketer. How do you prioritize what's the most important part of the words that you're reading? In other words, when you're reading an ad, what's the most important thing? Is it the subject line, the first paragraph, the last? We'll talk about that. Because rather than just reading and judging everything, there are a few really critical things to look at. Okay.
And just to back up a bit, and without using that chart though, so when we talk about these things here, if you remember from just DR 101, DR Direct Marketing 101, 40% of your response that we're going to drive through this funnel is your target. So we're not going to talk about target today. But we're going to talk about the other 40% and the other 20. Does anybody remember what those are? So 40's target, what's left?
Non-target. Non-target.
Yeah,
non-target.
Non-target, yeah.
I like that. I like that answer. That's a good answer. Very good. So the answer is yes. So it's offer. Offer is the other 40% of response. And so copy, very important in your offer. And it could be part of your headline, it could be a button on your site, and then the other is creative. So we're going to talk about the offer part and the creative part, and that's the motivational part, to get them to take action on whether it's an email, it's a website, whatever it may be, a direct campaign, an ad, even a print ad, and how you do this, radio ad, how all this kind of fits together. I just wanted to mention that. That's really the part we're going to touch on, is the 40 and the 20 at the end of that.
Okay, so we're going to go through these again in detail as well, but people buy benefits, not features of a product. We're going to dig into that in the next one. We're going to talk about what are the 5 primary motivators to get somebody to take action. talk about congruency and the placement of words as it relates to images, and then action words. So,
Yeah, we do this one.
Yeah.
So people buy benefits, and you guys
Let's go.
probably know, it'll back up there. So there's a difference between a feature, an advantage, and a benefit. So let's take something that just happened recently, like the election. Okay, so forget what side you're on. If you voted, you went and you filled out that little thing that has little bubbles on it, right? And you used to have to use a pencil for those. You can use ink now, but not red ink, right? Only blue or black, dark ink. So we used to use a number 2 pencil for those forms. Anybody remember a number 2 pencil? So I'm getting my age now, high school, number 2 pencil, okay. This is everybody born before, we won't say the year. You'll know it. It's like the old one with the picture of the cassette with the pencil. You know what year you're born if you know what this is, right? Okay, a lot of them in the audience are going, what's that again? I go back age. But anyway, so number 2 pencil is the feature. Okay, number 2. What's the advantage of a number 2 pencil?
lead.
A number 2 lead.
It's the feature.
Yeah, it's the feature of a number 2 pencil. What's the advantage of that? Anybody? No? Erasable. All pencils are erasable.
Readable.
Readable, darker. You must have been at one of our other sessions. It's copywriter. Of course you know this. So it's darker. It writes darker. What's the benefit of writing darker? Legible. You're on the right track. It's easier to read.
So that's
Okay,
good.
so
You jumped right into it.
Jump
yeah,
right in. So what you do is
advantage.
you're selling, my product's easier to read. Not that it has a number 2 lead, not that it writes darker. You'd be selling it's easier to read. That's the benefit someone's going to buy. Okay, those are the unstated benefits. It's like someone that's doing weightlifting that's not doing it to build bulky muscle. They're doing it to lose weight. What's the benefit of losing weight? Getting skinnier? That's a feature. That's an advantage. What's the benefit? Maybe more energy?
Getting a date.
Getting a date.
See, those are benefits. Getting
That's a benefit.
Energy, right? Going up the flight of stairs, picking up my grandkids if you're older. That's a benefit, picking up my grandkids. Now, when you go to weightlift, you don't go to the weightlifter and say, I want to pick up my grandkids. That's not what you tell them is your goal. Right? But that's the benefit that you're really trying to get out of weightlifting, maybe if you are a female and you're older and you want to get back in shape. Okay? So that's how feature, advantage, benefit. Any question on that? You guys get that? So benefits are what us marketers try to figure out are what are the primary benefits of our product to our target audience. So we're not going to talk about target today, but the target has benefits already in mind that they want to buy. And we're trying to figure it out as marketers, testing what those top benefits are. Especially the top 3, you want to find out what the top 1 is. Because usually is one they buy the most on, to give you an idea. Okay?
So I'm going to give you another example of that, just because I thought of it right now. So the feature of coming to a Marketing Monday is that you're going to learn about words that sell. The advantage is that you're going to be more informed. The benefit is that you're going to implement that and make more money out of your business. So if you were to promote Marketing Mondays, it would be, come learn how to make more money out of your business by tomorrow morning, right? Or something like that. So it's making more money, that's the benefit. For TurboTax, we would always say it makes taxes easy, right?
Which is an oxymoron, but nonetheless.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so that's the benefits. Really important. We're going to come back to that again later, so put that aside for now. Now we're going to talk about what the 4 primary, and now there's a 5th motivator. Primary, there are other motivators, but primary motivators to get people to actually sit up and take action. Okay, fear, greed, guilt, and exclusivity. We'll come to the 5th one later on. Can somebody give me an example of an ad or a company that uses fear to get somebody to take action?
Insurance ad where if it gets in an accident.
Yes.
Yeah, insurance uses fear a lot.
Life insurance,
Life insurance.
especially. Auto insurance, all insurance, right? Absolutely. Perfect.
And you only need insurance when you need it, right? So that's why they use fear. And it's an intangible. So they want to drive it with fear. Fear is one of the primary top motivators, by the way.
How about business-to-business companies that use fear?
Cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's exactly the one I was thinking of. Huge, huge.
They
Right?
make the fear.
Right? What's that?
Sometimes they're the ones who make the fear.
Ah, yeah, I know, yeah,
And
yeah.
then they want you to...
Yeah,
That's what I used to say
We'll
about-
make the virus, and now we're going to sell you the
That's what we used to
virus.
say about that insurance. The virus fix the virus, yeah.
Greed. What's an example of greed used? I'll give you the most common. Save 20% off. Discounts are using greed. Buy on, what do you call it,
Buy
Friday?
one.
Cyber Monday and save 50%. That is greed. It's
BOGO.
used heavily.
BOGO.
BOGO, buy one, get one off, right?
Big
How about in, give you a big example of greed for business to business. Not even in marketing, but in sales. Often used would be, for example, I have to close out my books by the end of the month, and I can, if you get on, I can lock in that price now
Before it goes up.
before it goes up. Do you want to close now? That's often used in B2B. Okay? Guilt. What company uses guilt? I work for a company that uses guilt all the time, and we didn't even have to try to. It was stated in the product. Valentine's Day and Mother's Day. Flowers. Guilt. All we had to do is say, buy flowers and send it out 2 days before Valentine's Day. Guilt.
And that's because everybody has a mother.
Yeah, right.
Or a girlfriend.
Or a girlfriend, yeah.
Yeah. So,
What else using guilt? I'll show you one that uses guilt, but tire companies. Anybody selling anything to do with baby items, if you aren't doing this, you're not a good parent. That's guilt, right? Exclusivity is the one that's actually most commonly used by startups. Because it's hard to do this in the beginning when you don't yet have maybe traction. But you can say, you can be one of the first to be given the opportunity to try this product before everybody else. And you say that to the early adopters.
well, let me give you one. There's actually, and I agree with Chris, it is startups, but there's actually some very large companies that use this really well. Anybody name one? Some of you are probably guilty of being greedy to get your exclusivity in here. All three. You like how I chained that together? There was no fear in there, although there might have been some fear based in that because the line was so long that you might not get one. Apple, yeah, for these guys, they built, and mine's not an Apple, mine's a Samsung, but line up to get the first one of these, right? I wanted the exclusive person to put my friend's face, look what I have. Of course, I wanted to get the Samsung 7, but it blew up in my pocket and caught my pants on fire. So I couldn't show that off. But I was being very greedy, and I felt guilty after I couldn't use the phone. But you get the idea? People line up for lines too because they want the exclusivity. I'm like, let's see, that's 30 million exclusivity people that got the phone. It's amazing to me how they use exclusivity and it still worked for years. People are lining up for phones. Not so much anymore, but for years from the first iPhone and the first Samsung, the Android, they did that. So to me, I was impressed if it wasn't just in the startup world. I thought I'd point that out.
Yeah,
'Cause that's
absolutely.
a huge one on exclusivity. Just huge. It's like Star Wars comes out. Where's the line? If you don't get your ticket, it's around the building 3 times. Right? I remember the first time I saw Star Wars here in San Diego, it was in Mission Valley, theater's gone. It wrapped around 3 times, and I was in the 3rd loop around that. Still feeling exclusive because it was the day the movie came out. Yet there was hundreds of people in front of me. So I was the sheep at that time as well, right in that line. So I give you an idea of how that operates. Let's talk about the
The
fifth one.
fifth one, anybody have an idea of one that's oftentimes used now?
Fairly new, within the last 10 years, actually more so within the last 5.
Yes. Social acceptance.
Social acceptance. So good ones like restaurants for Yelp. I mean, how many of you, and this is what I do, I go to Newtown, where do I go? I go on Yelp. I go on Google. I look at all the reviews for restaurants. I try to triangulate. Maybe I go on a Diners, Drives, and Dives if it's one of those kind of places, right? I look at the reviews. And then I go eat at a place I've never been to because I've trusted people I don't even know. Let me say that again. I went to a restaurant in a town that is new for me because of people I didn't know said it was good. Social acceptance. I mean, that blew my mind when I started realizing I'm doing it. I'm in the behavior of this. I'm marketing it, but it's so easy, and I've found some great restaurants doing that. But it's amazing how much that social acceptance is not only in B2C, but it's also in B2B. It's the same way. That's what testimonials are for. They've been around for a long time. Testimonials is a social way of social acceptance. With Yelp and all the big review sites, now it's huge on there, and there's companies that do just reputation management for companies. It spawned a whole new industry. That's how big it is.
And this is somewhat related to social acceptance, but we have a client that has a scientifically backed way to work out and lose weight. Very scientifically backed.
By doctors,
By doctors, yeah.
MDs.
When we put that in front of people, they just didn't want to believe it. And when we asked them what would make you believe it, they said, well, if somebody famous told me that it was a good way to work out, I probably would believe that more than the doctors.
Is that crazy? Is that counter? And I mean, we hung up the phone like, that's nuts. Okay, but let's go find a celebrity.
Right?
Because that's what they wanted.
And that's the reason why-
scientifically proved it, but they wanted a celebrity. And we heard this over and over again for this company. It's that entry on social acceptance is so big nowadays.
So we do a lot, and you just launched a radio ad campaign where you're borrowing the radio personality's celebrity endorsement to sell the product. So when they say, hey, I love this product, it does blah, 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 you should try it because I tried it and I loved it. That will sell a lot of product.
And guess what they're stating on the radio? Benefits. The personality is talking about their personal benefits they've gotten out of it. Not that they're stronger. One of them was like, I can open this door I couldn't open before in the radio station. There's soundproof doors, and I always had to go find a guy to open the door for me. So she gets on the air and talks about, she pushes it open with one hand. She describes this giant door. That's a benefit. And so the radio scripts were written in a way where in the middle, the talent can put their benefit in. And this is a company that tried radio before, Remnant Space, cheap radio. This costs 4 times as much. It actually pays for itself by spending 4 times the amount. So there's a point there where endorsement, in this case social acceptance, is winning the day. They're local talent in each area. It's not a national talent, it's a local person. And it's they're using news stations, they're using the traffic reporter. Because who does everybody trust on the radio more than anything else? That person giving them the traffic. Especially in big cities like LA, Orange County, New York, Philly, Chicago, those kind of towns. You listen to that traffic reporter.
So you guys also represent another health product, the water. And so, that's, you showed a lot of stuff about that, and that's a lot about doctors recommending it. But what you just said with the celebrity thing doesn't necessarily square. Have you tried that celebrity thing with your water company to see if
we
it,
haven't.
to see if that maybe
Well,
Actually,
square?
Actually, yeah.
We tried someone within that sector. That was
Yeah, within the sector.
Yeah. Because there's nobody big enough that would have made that work within that sector.
Yeah, that's
We
right.
tried actually a doctor celebrity to promote the program.
So do you maybe see that sort of like
A trend?
celebrity, a new trend that celebrities have more kind of power?
Depends on the celebrity.
Okay.
So
And
let me mention a celebrity that, like, this thing about, let's talk about just that real quickly, just we'll spend 2 minutes on. There's celebrities you can make up, they're cartoon characters, you control what they say, do, and everything else. Then there's real people you can't control. And so if you buy a real celebrity, you can't control their life. So if they're a big national celebrity everybody knows, like movie actors, and you can't control them, and they get in trouble, guess what? There goes your brand. Okay, and then I'm not gonna mention names, we've seen that happen recently, right, in the last 5 years. So these are radio talent celebrities. Find those local, I call it local and hyper local, work better. The more local it is, the more local audience you're going after, the tighter that group gets. To give you an idea. There's some seats up here if you want to sit down, a couple chairs. Feel free. So that you can stay against the wall and hold it up, because I heard that was falling down. Okay, grab this one there, just third line, pull one of these over. There's a chair right there too. Okay, so now I'll sit together there. There you go.
So you'll notice that we still haven't talked about copywriting, right? Well, what we're doing is we're setting the frame of how to review and how to look and approach things rather than just looking at the words, in specific. So the last thing that we want to do here before digging into some other areas is congruency. And that is words tied with specific graphics can change or enhance the meaning greatly.
This is great.
Okay, so I'm going to let you guys read that. It says, Ferraris are really fast. Right? Positive interaction, Ferraris are really fast. Just change one thing and everything changes. The words didn't change at all. Okay?
So just the picture changes the whole perception of what the message is that you're conveying.
Next, we're going to go into some action or power words. There are words that we tend to gravitate to when looking at copy. Now, a good copywriter may do something that's completely different, and that's okay. But these are words both Randy and I have tested. A few of these...
A lot.
We've tested.
A lot.
A lot. Like, we've done specific A/B testing in either Facebook or in Google and have read the results. And be very
Like
specific.
this word versus this word. Nothing's changed with the 2 words. Yes?
How dated is that? For example, how dated is that? So for example, amazing, mind-blowing, shocking, we see that left and right all the time, and I just gloss over
How about
So-
the word, how about the word free? That's a old
Free
word.
always catches it.
Yeah, free still works. We tested that recently as well too. I keep thinking it's going to die and it keeps working. So we're constantly, Andrew, we're constantly testing all these words and more. This is a small list. Chris and I constantly test words, action words, all the time because different industries, different words work. You made a good point. One industry might be using shocking all the time and everybody in there is using shocking.
Yeah.
So we need to use a different word in that industry because they're just numb to that word. And it will come around again over time. And so you constantly have to be testing words. That's why we're showing this list.
Yeah.
The message here is constantly test.
Yep.
Because you don't know what's going to work until you test it. And sometimes you have to isolate just this word or this word to see which one does work better. Because believe it or not, sometimes just one word change will make a difference in your conversions. And what we call conversion is a sale, not just a lead, but actual sale. What's going to convert them to buy. You know, this might be convert. You might find some of these words work better to convert them to the next step, the nurturing campaign. You might find another word works better to convert them to buy. And so you want to constantly test the different words because every product or service or product and service together may use a different combination. So that's the point I want to make with this list.
Yep.
I mean, I have favorites up here, but sometimes...
Yeah, go ahead and mention because we've tested some fairly recently.
Yeah, so I will tell you one of the ones that work is discover or uncover. And I've used both in the same pictures and everything, and sometimes discover works really great and uncover. I'm using discover for one word, and you think about this, secrets. Everybody wants to know if there's a secret. That seems to not ever wear out, especially with do it. The other is using fear, like one of the ones we have. We don't use amazing too much, but shocking. We've used shocking quite a bit and surprising, and had people click to see what the next set is underneath that.
And we've tested the word qualify, and I guess that has to do with the exclusive nature. Doing it again really soon here, which is simply find out if you qualify for this discount. You know, test I just did recently too. Instead of offering a discount, I no longer do that. I'll say find out if you qualify for this discount code, or you just simply say, here's your discount code, instead of saying, here's your 15% off discount. And I tested it and it worked.
It's more personal.
And I think people feel like it's an insider thing.
But the trick is test.
Yeah,
Test.
trick is test.
Test them all. So like sometimes I have used secrets and it didn't work in some industries. So the recent ones, it's worked really well in that area. But anyway, these are some good words to start out with the test. You know, some of these will break through. Sometimes the opposite of these words will break through. So it depends. Sometimes we look for the opposite of it and we'll test that as well. So here's a good one.
Okay, so we're looking at an ad here. Okay, it's an old ad, but it's a good one. What is the motivator in this ad? What? Somebody else said something else. What? Fear? Fear? It's fear and guilt, right? Fear that you're going to hurt your baby. Guilt that if you don't buy this tire, you're a bad parent.
By the way, if they just added a special that you had to get your code in, it could be exclusivity as well. You'll get all three. So it's got the double whammy already kind of built in. By the way, Michelin still uses babies, by the way. They use the Michelin Man in a lot of their commercials, and they still throw babies around their spots. I still see it.
Or they have a new one,
Yeah.
which is out right now, which is a turtle.
Yes, the
Everybody
turtle.
see the turtle crossing the road and they swerve around it?
Yep.
And because the tires are so awesome, you saved a turtle's life. So something else that you'll notice in here that I want people to realize, that, I mean, the art direction on this is really amazing. It's the congruency. If you got rid of this means nothing, right? If you got that, it still means something, but you know, it's the combination of the two make it powerful.
I'll give you one other one. I'm going to stay on that, Chris. Go
Yeah.
back. So here's another thing important that graphic people do once you give them the words. So here you got the words that were probably given. Won't read what's in here. You got a picture of the tire. Notice you could have stuck a lot of pictures of babies in there. Could have been one crawling, one standing, right? One in a crib. I mean, one in a car seat. Could have used a picture of a car, right, in a car seat. Could have done that with Michelin tires, big white wall Michelin on the side. They chose this for very specific, and I like this for art. It's subliminal, but the hand is right here, pointing towards the head. And you're thinking, oh, that's cheesy. Actually, it makes a difference. You turn that baby the other way, we've actually done this kind of testing. It makes a difference. I had one where the woman's elbow was like this, and this is where the copy was. Okay, so things like that work in graphics as well, too. That's where you need the graphic person to do the last touches after you have this kind. So I just wanted to point that out. This is very clever. This was done such a long time ago. This is an old art that still gets done, and if it's done well in direct marketing, it drives the eyeballs to where you want them to go. It's very simple. So I just want to point that out because that's a key thing about the art.
Okay, so the other aspect. So we talked about benefits, we talked about motivators, we talked about congruency. Now we're going to talk about things that you need to think about, like your checklist, if you will, as you're going through copy. And that is, you need to be clear, you need to be specific, it's beneficial to be personal, especially nowadays, more than ever, be relevant, and then be accurate. Be clear. So I'm going to ask you what they're selling in this ad. Go ahead and somebody tell me what they're selling in the ad. Jacket. Takes a little bit of time. As a startup especially, when you do not have a brand, don't make the person think. Be clear. Okay, next, be specific. Especially in email and in the landing pages. You've heard people say this all the time. Do you make these 6 common mistakes? Don't say, do you make these common mistakes? You can save $126,000 a year. Don't say you can just save money. Imagine if you had 2 extra hours each night. Don't just say you can save some time. The more specific you are, the higher the conversions.
And let me give you a kind of, this is my favorite funny example of being specific, is you guys remember all the jazzercise and ad videos that were out, Buns of Steel? You know, they had the 15-minute ads, and then the 13-minute ads came out, and there was the 10-minute ad video, and then they went down to 7 minutes, right? And they kept having to lower the number because it was specific. But I always love that classic example. Actually, I have 3 of those DVDs or CDs, whatever they were back then, still the number, different numbers. I kept those as an archive to show that.
Ads. It's crazy.
It's crazy. It took 15 minutes before. How can you do it half the time? Okay, that makes a big difference.
This is an example that we just launched today,
Yeah.
which is 7 questions you need to ask your personal trainer, right? So you're specific. A lot of people question, you know, does this need to be odd? Does this need to be even? Yeah, we just found that just being specific helps in itself.
In this case, the reason why 7 is because we try to think of what questions would we want someone to ask. That's how you look at it. Not what would they ask, what we want them to ask, what information we want to give them that takes this company's product and totally separates it from everybody else. This is like a guide that says, okay, if you're going to get a personal trainer, there's only one company you should pick, but we're not going to tell you who that is, it's a secret. Right? So these 7 questions are designed that way. That's why they're 7. Could have been 5. That's why, again, Chris says randomly, we actually thought through what are the questions, here's the possible answers, and this is how we're going to drive them to say, oh God, I should pick this company, it's the best one to pick. So it's use it as a differentiator. So that's how it's a reverse way to figure out how many questions to ask. It's like how many secrets, the 3 top secrets, you know, or the 5 common mistakes.
Yeah.
You think about what questions do you want them to ask to cover those. Okay?
Be personal, especially in emails, but also in many other things. The more it seems like it's coming from an individual rather than a company, a brand, an organization, some cold face behind some ivory tower, the more personal you can make it, the better. Do you recognize the email or some people?
No.
Oh, okay. So there's a couple of things about this. First of all, I'm going to read this. Can you guys see it? Okay. So it says here. It says Christopher. First of all, it has my name. Okay. It says I had a great webinar on Tuesday with Jill with a few thousand corporations on hand. Since then, there have been many requests for us to replay it. So here it is. The link below will be active for 48 hours. Here's the link, and it's from Oren. Now, obviously, he sent me some emails promoting his product before, so you already probably have me placed. There's a couple of things. Number one is, it's personalized here with my name. It does not come from Oren Klaff, you know, with a whole bunch of stuff here. He had just had his son Oren. Notice how it sounds rather kind of conversational with a specific deadline. Very specific. But notice the personal nature to it. Now we've gone so far as to have emails come out where we're sending like 80,000 emails, but it appears like the individual is sending to that person individually because it's written in such a manner.
To give you an idea, we had a client here actually at Evo that, do you have that example?
No, I don't.
Okay, so I'll explain to you really quick. And we sent out thousands of emails for somebody that was going to be answering if someone responded to those emails. And what we did was, how many of you are familiar with Etsy, the craft kind of store? So we went on there and we actually scraped items off of there and put them personalized into an email. So we tested one like saying to Chris. And Chris would say, hey, I was at your site on Etsy and I loved your orange framed mirror. Now, we never saw the orange framed mirror, but it put that into the thing, and it talks about them moving their craft site, building another one for this Bitcoin site. And that was the customer we had, where we had a Bitcoin site, took Bitcoin. And we actually got customers left and right, open rates like crazy, because it was that personalized. They had an item off their website that was pulled into the email. So it had their name, an item, and then it talked about how they're probably struggling with this, because we knew a lot of people are struggling with this thing with Etsy. So we took a guess that 80% of people are struggling. We're going to put that in the email. The 20 that don't, they're not going to answer anyway because they're not struggling. And so it was a very successful campaign by personalizing it that way, not just as beyond the name. Okay, so it's just not just first name, but an item in there, something else personal about them. We try to do this. There's other ways you can do this, but to give you an idea is that you want to go beyond the name if you can. This is the other key right here, the signature. Because it looks like it comes from an Outlook email where it doesn't have a big signature like it's personal. There's another one I haven't tested yet, and I'm thinking of testing. It's the first time you're going to hear this. So this is brand new. Just take out the first name. Okay, I get a lot of emails from people now that they don't even say, hi, Randy. It just starts out with a conversation. And I thought, you know what, that's when you really know somebody, and people are doing that to me. I mean, I really know them well, and it's a conversation we have ongoing. I thought, this might be interesting to test in marketing. See, heard it here first. Probably someone else is saying it in some other seminar yesterday. But anyway, get an idea that makes it personal. Question?
No, I think this is a great idea, and the vertical is like thought leadership or entrepreneurship or this or that. Like in my experience working with agencies and companies that are more design focused, I've always been challenged to try and get them to just kind of drop the design and try a plain text email.
Plain worked better. We've tested it a bunch of times. The more, excuse the French, crap you put. I'll give you an idea. Fry's Electronics, I'm on their email list. Emails I get from them have no images in them until I say show images. So I'm getting emails that come into my inbox, don't be spam. It's got their logo and that's it on it. Until I open it up and then it expands into this giant graphic email. So it's okay to expand them, but where are most people looking at their emails? This really large screen is what they're looking at, right? So text is a lot easier to read and much quicker than trying to look at a bunch of graphics. Okay, so you think of it that way. Think of the device. Also, too, is you want to make your emails device specific. So you want to tell your audience what devices they're on. And there's ways to do that. Find out if most of your customers are on mobile, are doing their research on mobile, or answering their email on mobile. I can tell you specifically people I interact with, I know because it's always coming from their phone. It's got the signature, Samsung or iPhone or tablet. Somebody puts, I even know people send me from a tablet. It says tablet right on the end of the email. So those kind of things are very important. But that is a struggle. We've struggled the same thing. Yeah. We just kind of tell them, you're paying us, you better trust us.
Just, I know this is kind of, maybe doesn't help, but there's creativity in the way the words are done. It's beautifully creative, even though it's not graphically creative. There's the way it's kind of presented. It's the hardest thing in the world to make a short, impactful email.
I think that's the other challenge, just to butt in again, is also the one message per email.
Yeah.
That's something it's always with clients.
Let me give you the sales tactic I was taught at Xerox and selling. It's the same thing for emails. It applies exactly to like that. One message. I always tell people, sell one thing, sell it well, sell two things, sell nothing. Okay? That's the adage. One thing. Because if you get that one idea across, you've done a good job. It's like for you all coming here, if everybody gets one tip that we give out in this whole hour presentation, we're happy we got one thing out of it. And that's all we can expect. You get two things, then we're pretty happy. But when it comes to selling and emailing, one concept is it. You'll lose them after that. Okay?
Here's an example of an email that's relevant. Oh, yeah.
Sorry. So this email, I mean, you guys recommend highlighting anything or maybe bolding anything, or because this is just
I'd say I played with bolding, highlighting, boxing. It depends. People get too carried away with it when you say, yeah, go ahead and do it. I would do highlight. If you're going to highlight one thing, one word only, but not a bunch.
And it's interesting because a hyperlink is automatically kind of like a bolding and a coloring. So we haven't tested bolding in particular,
Right.
because there's always so many other things to test, but it's good.
And here's another one you see on links. This one's click here to listen. So they change the link, or you can leave it generic, go to the next one, or you just leave the link as it was. So it depends on what's in the link.
Do you know, this was specifically the client's recommendation to do this. Do you know why? This versus making it a link like that? Yeah, that was their concern. We don't have any test results to prove that, but I know there's a lot of concern that if you receive an email from somebody you don't know and it says click here to listen, you will not click because you think it's phishing. So if you put the whole URL, it makes people feel a little more comfortable.
Oh,
supposedly, I don't know.
Not only that, the end of this URL is pretty good for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can make the URL be whatever you want,
Exactly.
and you make it part of the sales.
This looks like a legit URL with a nice little closer right there. Little
So
fear
this
base.
company was trying to sell their tax software, which is called TaxJar. And they knew people that were on Amazon, and they emailed them saying, hey, most states have sales tax returns due on January 20th. Did you know that? Some earlier, some later, because they didn't know what state they were in. They only knew that they were an Amazon seller. And then, based on that, your required deadline is coming up. That's very relevant because they know that they're an Amazon seller. They know their taxes are due. Perfect timing. Rather than selling them hard, they actually linked them over to a blog. Their hope was if there's a concern that they feel like they're being sold too hard, a blog is a little less concerning. It's more informative. They'll move on over there. Then once I get them to the blog page, I'll convert them.
That's a nurture path, so they probably tested, I would imagine, trying to go straight, and the blog probably worked better.
Also, Amazon has something called FBA, right? Is that freight by fulfillment by Amazon? Thank you. Fulfillment by Amazon. So they made up this name for the company. I mean, there's only two or three people in the company. They just made up FBA sales tax team to seem like it's a bigger company, and they'll get a whole entire team focused on FBA. Really, it's just 3 people. Okay, be accurate. Last point, right? Be accurate. The worst thing you can ever possibly do is send out an email and have the wrong link or the wrong phone number in there.
Actually, there's one worse than that.
Oh, what's
I've
that?
seen one. So, and I made this mistake, so I'm not proud to say this, but we make mistakes. We had this great ad. I was writing, this is earlier in my career. If I made this now, I'd be fired. I'm fired. So I had this great ad. It was awesome. Everybody approved it, loved it. There's no phone number on it. And it said call in different places, but no phone number. And nobody caught it. I mean, 10 people looked at this thing. Remember I showed you that one? It was like crazy. It was a crazy great ad. People look at it, what kind of response did you get? I go, we got this response. How did you get that in that? I go, look, there's no phone number here for them. There's no place for them to respond. That's the worst you could do. Okay, so if you want to have a phone number, have the phone number. The other thing is, if you're going to put a phone number, have 5 people check the number. 5. That's my rule of 5. I always have 5 people check phone numbers for me on any ad. Because I see the phone number so many times it could be transverse and I won't even catch it. So when you're doing phone numbers, make sure. Same with URLs, same with the response, what you want them to do. Make sure that information is accurate because that's their response, what they're going to respond to. You don't want to lose them because of a little mistake like that.
If you print a magazine ad, like he was talking about with the wrong phone number, you're screwed.
Oh yeah.
If you send out an email with the wrong phone number or a wrong link, what do? What's that?
Catch reply. Somebody will reply this phone. Without reply.
Or
All right, anybody else? Any other ideas?
you may have the potential best email in the world on your hands. An apology email will get more response than anything you can possibly do. So much so, we have designed fake mistakes. Because it will get, the follow-up will get you a huge response.
Like, oops.
I guarantee it. I will put my I'll put $500 on it right now. If you do it and try it, you will get a huge response.
Don't
Now,
do
you
it
gotta
often. Don't do it often.
If you do it often, then you just look like a bunch of fools, you know? But if you do it once, you'll be
If you do it
okay.
often, your response starts here, and I guarantee you $500 it will go here.
We
Okay,
call
the
it
same
our,
500.
we call it the oops email. You put oops, you know, we've made a mistake.
Sorry.
Or sorry. In the subject line, it will always get opened. And then in there, you explain yourself completely, and then say, and as an apology, we're going to give you X, and then you put the offer in there. Don't
By
do
the
it
way,
too
this
often.
was discovered by a mistake.
Yeah. I know somebody also that worked for J. Crew Catalog, and she accidentally put doctor on every single catalog that went out. So everybody's, you know, Dr. Christie. Everybody was a doctor. Sales went up 20%. So, but the owner was like, well, you can't really roll that out. You can only do it once, you know. It's like, hey.
But it was a good 20% off for one time.
But be accurate.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just reviewing that again. You remember? Okay. So let's review from the top. We talked about benefits. We talked about motivators. We talked about congruency, and then we talked about this, which is clear, specific, personal, relevant, and accurate. Okay. So I'm going to flip ahead to. I'm going to do this, and then we're going to review some websites, and like to have you all review it for those items, okay? But we talked about impact words, telling a story. You notice how one of those emails kind of told a little bit of a story, but if there's a way you can tell a story that is short, could be very impactful and being bold. I want to talk about emotional or power words. We talked a little bit about some of those response words. These are more of emotional words that you can use. We don't necessarily put them in the headline, but you might put it in the body copy.
I'll give you an example what Chris is going through. It's brilliant. Chris and I have done a lot of marketing in the healthcare sector, and we use brilliant or genius, actually, is another one. And we found genius worked better than brilliant in the doctor sector, because every MD wants to be a genius. They already think they're brilliant. We found that out, like de facto, but not all of them are geniuses.
Still use that one.
Yeah.
Still have that one. Still has this. You know, everybody says you can't use free anymore.
Still works.
Secrets still works.
Yeah. And I want to share genius
Shots
because that
still
would
works.
work really well in the doctor sector.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people like to write from I or our company, but if you could swap it around, so always start the sentence or headline with you or your, so that you are talking about the benefits of the company.
And it makes it more personal. There's the oops.
Oops email.
You can example of your much, right? Example of
If you would like a copy of this presentation, it's free. So I forgot to mention that in the beginning. So at the end of the presentation, if you just drop your business card on the table, Chris will promise to send you a personalized spam email that don't open to click to listen. Just kidding. If you put your card there on the table, we'll add you to our email list, and you'll get copies not only of this presentation, but all of our future presentations. Okay, we'll just automatically send it to you. You can opt out anytime. So basically all we send out is presentations.
Is that what you were asking about, or?
Yes, I got caught the question. She was trying to write that fast. I figured, well, if you can write that quick, I want you on my team. That's pretty good.
Okay, I'm going to do another one from this company, which is kind of storytelling in the email. So this is the opening sentence. It says, "Here's a fun experience. Here's a fun experiment you can try on your own." It's so hard to not want to read on, right? You're like, what the hell is that? And then it goes on to say, stop by your local BMW dealership, tell them you want to check on it, blah, blah, blah. And it tells a little bit of a story. But really what it's doing is explaining his service. So it's an interesting way of selling a product is by telling a story. We'll send this to you. Being bold. This is the one where we tested brilliant versus genius.
Here's the genius discovery. Notice we put a very unrecognizable character big in the picture.
We were selling to doctors, and we knew that
We tried a bunch of
doctors'
things.
primary concern is of either, number one is make more money or save money. Then the third one is to look good in front of their peers, to be smart. So we were trying to figure out how we could talk to them about being smart without offending them. So one is to lower their, I don't know, concerns by putting brilliant or somebody smart, which is in a kid form. And then talk about, okay, this genius discovery. So it's not saying, you will be smarter if you do this, because that's almost like, you're not going to tell me when I'm going to be smarter, you know? So it's kind of a softer way of approaching it.
It's a very soft way of saying, don't you want to be like Einstein or thought of
Yeah.
like Einstein? And it got so nice, we actually blew this up on a big banner when they did trade shows, and people started posing next to that. We actually had the old banner and the new one, flocking to the nose. Remember that? Was crowding up, taking photos with it. So we knew that image with the genius really got their attention. And so we tested in many different ways. And that's just the first time ever that genius beat brilliant out.
Yeah.
You know, and we didn't have the word genius on our list. We kind of added it for that sector. It worked really well. And again, that's why we say test, because you don't know what word's going to work until you test one versus another one. So you got to start out somewhere, your best guess, based on what you know about your target, which we're not going to talk about today. Use words that might affinity with them that have some correlation, and then test against those. So you got to establish some kind of control that gives some kind of response for you, then test against that control. That's the basis of direct marketing. Developing the control, testing again. In this case, we're talking about words. Develop the right words, test against those words as you go on, because they will wear out over time.
Okay, so now let's have some fun. So we're going to review some sites. We're going to put up some home pages.
We're going to have some fun now? This hasn't been fun up to this point? This hasn't been fun? Come on.
So I'm going to put this up, and I'd like you guys to critique based off of what we talked about. There's many different things that we mentioned, but let's talk about it. So it says right here, the place for your favorite music. You can share tracks from YouTube, SoundCloud, Deezer, and more. What do you guys think? What does the company do?
Pillows.
What's that?
Pillows.
Pillows? I like the other one.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. So the first thing is make sure it's clear what you do. Regardless of everything else, right? You remember we talked about be clear?
This is like, it's something to do with music, but I'm not quite sure what to do with music.
Right?
So basically you've got about, and you've heard this before, 3 to 5 seconds to grab their attention. If you get 5, you're lucky. It's usually about 3. And then they're on to something else.
Yeah. 2 things based on that. Number one is the book is still very popular, Don't Make Me Think. It's a great book on usability. But always think about that when you go in here. People aren't going to take that much time to figure you out, especially when you're just getting launched.
Yep.
Okay, how about this one? It says, feel good about staying on top of your work each day. Deskaway is a smart, web-based project collaboration software that provides teams a central place to organize, manage, and track work. Okay, let's stop. Let's start with the top. Okay, what is the benefit here?
Feel good.
What's that?
Feel good.
Feel good. At least they got the benefit right there in the first 2 words. Okay, benefit. What is the primary motivator? Fear, greed, guilt, exclusivity,
Social acceptance.
social acceptance. Is there a motivator here? What's that? Guilt?
Fear. I want to get behind my work.
Top of your work, okay. There's also a little bit of greed here. It's kind of sort of, this is more of an offer rather than a motivator, but, okay.
Well, they did better grading. Can we read the small print here? No credit card required.
Is it clear?
Is it clear what they do?
They have a website.
No.
Yeah?
Yeah, they got a website.
You have to read the second part to really.
Do you have to read the second? Do you have to read the second?
So here's a good question. What would make you read the second? If you didn't want to incline to get that far, would the headline get you to read on?
I think it would need to be shorter, the same like message, but a little bit shorter, because it, like visually, I'm literally reading like this,
Right?
so it's busy. Yeah.
Busy. I was going to ask anybody else find it busy, like hard to figure out what to read first? That's another mistake they made. They made it hard to figure out what to read first. What do you read first?
The cocktails.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, the cocktails, right? The picture.
But you know, that's a good concept though. The concept of it doesn't quite match, but the concept is if you can take care of your work, you can leave work a little bit earlier and go out and have some cocktails on the beach. The concept's good. It's just, now you're trying to tie graphics with some wording. Now, maybe there's something else you could do with words feel good. That is a primary motivator, but maybe they could be more creative with that.
Let me ask another question. How important is this right here?
No, it's just busy.
Does it do anything for the ad?
Well, it tells it that it's web-based, which I think
Yeah, but
is part of the point that it's desk away because you can use it anywhere.
Yeah,
You don't
but
have to
put
do
it at the bottom though, after all of that.
So the question is, do they need, so if it does that, do they need to take up that much space to tell you that?
But even if it is web-based, I mean, so what?
But who cares,
The
right?
point is like, it can be a way, right?
Whether it's web-based or not, it still doesn't matter because the benefits feel good.
Also, if your target market is these kind of companies that use collaborative software, you don't really need to illustrate it like that.
Okay?
Anything else on there? Yeah?
One thing I like about this is that the bold is speaking to the pain point, and then the text following that is presumably a solution to that pain. And if you don't have that pain, you'll skip down and you're not going to.
Yeah, you might. Depends on if you're feeling it.
That might have to do with how good are they at targeting and pulling the right people in with the pain,
And timing.
depending.
Timing.
Okay, let's move on. It's an interesting one because they got a lot of the key elements, but it's a matter of congruency and placement.
Here's a
Okay.
good one.
Welcome to Upland. We help companies work smarter at all levels every day. Reminds me of my buddy says, I've got this brilliant idea. I'm going to make a product that will help you do anything, anytime, anywhere, and it's absolutely free. And I would always say, what's that? He goes, oh, I'm just the idea guy. I'm going to let you go do the work and figure it out. But I mean, it doesn't really tell you anything, does it?
No.
We help companies work smarter at all levels every day.
This is actually, I think this guy came up to me the other day as a starter. He says, I have a product that's for everybody. This must have been it.
Yeah.
Everybody needs it. And I said, everybody only needs to breathe and eat, right? Maybe sleep. Here's another one.
Okay.
Oops.
Blue Kava. It's a multi-screen world. At Blue Kava, marketing means reaching and measuring consumers where they work and where they play. What do? Yep, measures. Marketing measurement. Okay. Analytics. What's the benefit?
I don't know. I don't care about multi-screen. I don't know anybody who does.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're saying that they can try and track people across their web to their mobile.
So that's interesting that you said, I think what they're trying to say. They just could have worded it differently and been able to say that a little
Just
bit more
just like
clearly.
that.
Yeah.
Or they could have
Yeah.
added a visual like of a phone or tablet.
Yeah.
Well, you know what else is nice? I do like they did. You got that they measured because of this. This
Yeah.
time the big graphic played a big role because it shows exactly, here's what we did. That screen cap was what they did. It's a measurement screen cap with numbers below it. You get that.
Yeah, but you have to get down to the very bottom to find out if it has anything to do with advertising.
Yeah.
Sure, hard to find the call to action button, right?
You know, being marketers, one of our concerns always is having inaccurate measurement because we're unable to do this.
Right.
So I have a fear that I'm not appropriately measuring my marketing. It could talk about fear here. You
Like
know?
leaks in your marketing funnel.
Leaks in the
We always
marketing.
worry about leaks. So how much leak do we have? You know, is it 20%, 15%? Here's another one. Notice their call to action button, the color.
It should stand out more.
Yeah, it's blue. Everything else is blue. There's just a lot of blue going on. I know they're blue Canva, but somebody got carried away and thought that the button had to be blue as well. That's one of the worst colors for a call to action button. They had made it orange or yellow, one of the top ones that get orange #1 still, one of those colors, but they left it blue because of blue Canva. I can almost guarantee you that's
Yeah,
why
sure,
it's
sure.
blue. Just looking at blue, everything highlighted's got a blue to it. So we're trying to brand, and that's where they went over the top on the brand. That's you're talking about fighting to get the graphics out. This was, I'm sure, some fight in the room, and the marketers lost, and somebody in branding won. And you want to go,
So also benefit, kind of lost.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about features and advantage? So reaching and measuring consumers where they work and play, that's stopping just before the benefit. The fear, greed, guilt, exclusivity, social acceptance kind of lost here, so they're missing out on that. Clarity, this could be a little bit more clear. So again, without having to be a copywriter, you can focus on the things that matter most. Okay, move on. Okay. Does anybody use Prezi here? Yeah, you did? Okay. Okay. What do you guys think of this? Okay.
Empowering.
What's the motivator here?
Being a great presenter here.
Which I consider that to be greed. Being better, right?
Or the opposite, you know you're a crummy presenter already, and you want to be better.
Sure, guilt.
So they're going into your guilt.
Yeah.
Like, I better improve. This might help me look
Also, they
better.
can have social acceptance.
Yeah,
Could be some
absolutely.
social acceptance in there as a presenter. Because you're up on stage, right? I mean, you guys are critiquing us right now. How well are we doing, right?
Yeah.
So we're up on stage. Plus, you don't even know if we screw up though. So we didn't screw up this. Just kidding. Any other feedback on this one? But I like the fact that they put this huge. And they made it just big, you can't miss it. Same with the button.
Yeah.
It really seems like it's appealing to ego.
Yes.
Yep,
Absolutely.
you bet. Straight on. Very ego driven.
Yeah, the benefit is kind of, so what's interesting is there is the benefit of being a great presenter. What's the benefit of being a great presenter?
Communicate well.
What's that?
To communicate well.
You communicate well,
You look good. You look good.
you look good, make more money, get a promotion. There's so many things. They might have thought there's too many things, so I'm not going to say get a promotion here, because then people who don't care about that won't care, you know what I mean? Or, you know, secure your first round of financing, because that doesn't, you know, so maybe they said, okay, we need to drop it down a little bit so we can cover more people. People will fill in the benefit.
Yeah, they call that connecting the dots. So they figure the customer will connect the last dot for them.
They're not saying present well, the effect of a good presentation. They're saying be a great presenter.
Yeah, it's different.
They're really pumping up the person's ego, regardless of how effective they are as a great.
Correct.
Yeah.
It is. It's when you said ego tapping, I said right because the word they use presenter.
Yeah, also, you remember we were saying the power of the word you? They don't use the word you, but it's almost, you will be. It's almost like you fill those words in here. You will be a great presenter. You automatically fill it in, connecting the dots. That's pretty good.
Now the button is kind of blue also.
Yeah, I
It is.
know. I thought the same
And I wouldn't have made
thing.
that button blue because it blends with this background too much. This should definitely have stood out. I mean, they did another interesting thing here. Watch the video. They underlined it. So they really, and we've done a lot of video tests. We've talked about it before. The one thing Chris and I will tell you is, do you need to have video on your landing page? The answer is yes, if you got good video. When people watch the video, the answer is maybe. But we found out when you take the video off, even though many people aren't watching it, response goes down. So having video adds credibility, just by having video. I know it sounds crazy, but we've tested this, and other people in marketing we know have tested it, same conclusion.
And what
So
kind
I
of
would employ you to test that and see if it works.
What kind of video would work better? One with live people or one like the Gecko, you know, like
Animated video. It depends on the product and service. So there's no one answer to that. I've seen professionally done videos just flop like crazy, and amateur ones that get the message quickly work great. So it just depends on the audience and the message.
Okay, here's another one. Hush, the world's first smart earplugs. Block out the world, hear what you need. What do you guys think? What's the benefit?
I was using dumb earplugs.
Yeah, dumb earplugs.
I think the third line needs to be just a little bit bigger.
Isn't that interesting? Because this is really powerful right here.
Yes.
Can't read it, can you? Be the first to hear and get early bird discount when we launch on Kickstarter, space limited. So this is the exclusivity thing.
It's the offer.
And the
So they made
offer.
the offer really tiny. Remember, it's 40% of your response. Remember I said it's offer? offer's kind of hard to find there. I mean, they got a great headline there, great imagery for their product.
So what is this product? Do you guys even know? What? I didn't do that on purpose, by the way, guys. What?
Like noise canceling earbuds.
Noise canceling
Usually if
earbuds.
something is like noise canceling, they're like the big blocky headphones. And they're claiming they can do it just like with a small button.
Well, it's interesting if that's what they did. Everybody knows what noise Anybody here not know what noise canceling is? Not. Besides me? Okay. See, everybody would know, so you'd think they would have used that. Depends on how long ago they launched this. But this is fairly new and not that old.
It actually inserts white noise, different types of white noise.
Yeah.
So is it
it's
kind
not-
of like an ear, what do you call it?
Earplug, like, you know, like
It's meant to sleep.
Hearing aid.
It's sleep.
Hearing aid. Is it a
It
hearing
actually,
aid?
it's an Emonex's company, I believe. It
Yeah.
was.
Gosh, yeah. Yeah, it sounds familiar.
So one of the biggest challenges if you're a startup and you're kind of creating a new category, because this is kind of a new category, very difficult. Very, very
A
difficult.
lot of education involved in new categories.
Yeah.
So you got to educate them and sell them at the same time. It's a long path.
So oftentimes what you're trying to do is tease into receiving more information because you're creating a new category.
Which is why they have subscribe is there.
Yeah.
With the offer line, because it's so small based on your experience, do people tend to take a minute to look into that? What's really
Sometimes it
in
gets
that text?
glanced over. A lot of times,
If you have a good offer.
if you have a good offer, but it's an okay offer. This is actually what stands out. I might go from here right to here, or to here. There's 2 buttons there to click on. If I want to not know what it is, it's new category. I'm like, okay, learn more. I'm gonna, like you said, white noise. Like, oh, okay, I didn't even know that.
What really, the guys that started this were 3 kids from UCSD.
Yeah.
And they actually, when you say a good story, they actually had a great story. They were saying, you know, when you're in college, there's the crazy parties going on. Well, I was the guy in the next room because I had a test the next day trying to study. So that's how that's how the guys came up with it.
Really?
And I could pitch for getting the money. That's what sold it, but it seems
So
to
he didn't realize he should just close the book and go party?
well, there's that too.
And then go study later?
I think they've
Because the
done
party
all
wasn't
right.
going away?
It's great. It's a tough thing to explain, but
Yeah, new categories are tough. They are. We get a lot of startup companies come up to us, and anytime says, I've got a new category, we finally realize, like, okay, this is a tough one. New category is going to take time. You're not going to scale as fast as you think you're going to scale. It's going to take a while to build the inertia first. It's another Evo company.
financial education program that has changed 100,000 lives. Highly effective, unbiased financial education.
It's too broad. What does that mean? Like, is it weekly classes where you call in? Is it somewhere where you go? Is it a consultant? Is it an advisor?
I actually think it's good. I think it makes people want to take action.
They try to find out more, to try to find out the answers to her.
Oh, exactly what you said. You wanted to find out more. What is it? You might click the video to find out what is the classes.
I mean, I think it would depend on what the ad was beforehand.
Yeah, that's a
Who
good
you
point.
are. Yep.
Good point.
Yep.
Good point.
But the word unbiased, what does it have to do with?
I like that too, actually, because I've gone to a ton of sites where you're getting biased information.
Oh,
In the financial world, if you're in the financial world, most of the information's biased.
They're trying to sell you something. Most financial information sites
It's like
are selling
the
you
postcard you get that says a steak dinner for two.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't understand how
Biased
it applies to the
information.
site except for financial education
Yeah.
programs.
So they're just basically showing this is pure just education.
Okay.
Nobody's biased. It isn't from, Goldman Sachs. It isn't from JP Morgan. It's unbiased. It's just education. It's not whose dollar, it's a dollar.
Well, then eliminate the highly effective and just keep the unbiased financial education.
Yep.
Because that's what threw me off was highly effective, unbiased.
So you guys understand why they did this down here?
Credible sources.
Yeah, credibility.
Credible sources, Morningstar for bonds.
Yeah, these are for bonds, and then they got university on here, and they got some big names, client names, stuff that they write content for, and they got some good proof sources. Hey, we're not like brand new on the block here. We've been dealing with some pretty large companies.
I think it's also missing the U. Like, does that make this a B2B company or?
It actually was
It is a B2B company.
It is a B2B company.
Interesting. Good point.
The menu is too small, the fonts, it's so hard
Should be bigger, yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want to watch this into the video? Seems like it's the whole purpose of the slide. Yeah.
This is their website landing page. They had several actually header pages they built that were testing. This was one of them they had up for a while. What they did is they actually put them up for a while, looked at the results and moved to another header page and see how that did. They were testing several angles as they were bringing customers to a funnel. So they actually did direct marketing and direct sales. So they had a call center. So this might be where somebody landed maybe after opening an email coming to here. It's a general, it's not an actual landing page, it's actually the website header page. They had landing pages as well too for separate campaigns that had some similar stuff and images on it but packaged differently. Yes?
So what do you think about having a landing page where instead of having one static image, like every 2-3 seconds another one moves over?
Yeah, like a slider.
Little sliders. Not many of them, just a few.
Well, there's tons of sliders out there now. We were talking about this in another session we did. Large companies are doing actually video backgrounds where people are moving to keep it interactive so you don't get bored. As I said, 3 seconds. So that keeps someone's attention. They're like, I forgot whose site I went to. It's like a Starbucks scene in the background. They don't sell coffee, the site I was on. It was something completely different, but the background was a coffee store of some type. So it gets your attention. I think it was like ADP or one of those. It was some other. Maybe it was BP. Remember, it had that background showed you that. So it's very interesting. I've seen that on some of the larger companies. They're testing video backgrounds. Is it working or not? I don't know, but some of those. Yeah, I don't remember which one it was.
I'll show you one.
You know one of them I'm talking about. There's one.
I think also Airbnb.
Airbnb does it.
Airbnb, like they made it famous.
Uber does it. There's a couple of the big ones.
But some are playing around. Oh, do I have connection?
Are you connected? That's why it's spinning.
Oh, do you guys know BP? How do you spell it? You know what I'm talking about? That company? No, it's they sell used cars. They raised like $50 million. I can't see.
I know you're talking about.
BEE.
Is that it?
BEE.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
BP, right? BEEPI. It's 2 E's and a P and an I, Chris. Now I remember.
So they have, so the concept is that a lot of companies are using video, right? Like Airbnb, where it slowly moves in the background. So the other one is that what these guys are doing, it's just a slight movement. You realize that these guys are live. So it kind of like makes it feel a little bit more alive, but slightly. And then it has a radical new way to buy, sell, and own cars. What do you guys, okay, you already know what they do because they said that clearly. What's the benefit of buying radically, what's the benefit of this website?
Make it simpler to buy and sell.
Okay, you're just going to assume that by a radical new way, you're going to assume that. That's an appropriate assumption.
Like I hand the key to somebody, give you the money.
The retry implies you don't have to go pick it up.
What's that again?
The retry implies you don't have to go pick it up.
That's right. They
Did you
deliver
notice
the
when-
car to you.
Did you notice when Chris first got on the site, this wasn't here? The truck was there first big, and it was there for quite a while before this guy moved
That's right.
first. He moved first. So this is a loop, called the loop video, shot in a green room. White background, they weren't in this background. Each of these were images, are all separate, overlaid within each other. So you have 3 layers going on.
So when you were talking about sliders, there was a lot of discussion in the industry that sliders are meant for companies that have a whole bunch of divisions, and they have to report to, marketers have to report to a lot of people, and they need to get a lot of stuff on the homepage. So they put a slider on there. But if you have a startup and you're selling something specific, then try to see if you can't do that without many different objectives and sliders. The thing that people are working on now are more the slight movements, or what can you do here to support what you're doing there? How can you tell a story without having people click or waiting for a slide?
Amazon did for a long time a woman dressed up in a certain way, some clothing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, those will work as well too. And just a couple more, Chris, we're done.
Oh yeah.
We're at the end.
Okay, and then we've got a couple more. Hourly Nerd. The future of consulting, bringing experienced professionals and top MBAs directly to your business.
Benefit? What's the benefit?
Reaching many people, because there's different ethnicities there and gender, which is, cross.
And what's the benefit? It's not quite stated, but it's
Project
Would save money?
Yeah.
Interesting, all right. Access? Easy?
Not to be left behind.
Not be left behind? You know, they said the future of consulting. What does that mean to anybody?
I think they're trying to say like consulting that's more accessible. You don't need to go to a top consulting firm and pay them
I think you're
X
right.
number of dollars per month. You can find a consult, like your own personal consultant.
My preference would be for them to have said that instead of just say the future of consulting.
or personalized like
My personal was be to kind of just say that more upfront, like, finally consulting that's more accessible and blah, blah, blah. But at least you got that out of their statement there.
They're all smiling.
Yeah.
They're all smiling. Well, they're getting paid.
Okay. Okay, here's one, Video Lean. Grow your business creating videos in minutes. What do they do? What's the benefit?
You can relax.
So that's very clear. It's not very creative in the way that they said it, but at least they got the point across, Increase the visibility of your project, idea, or service in a fast and intuitive way. Pretty clear. So again, it's not super pretty or whatever, but they got the points across.
Anything notice something weird they did on this site?
Oh, yeah.
That's the first thing that caught me. They did some really strange kind of broke the marketing rules. I don't know if it worked or not. They broke a basic rule.
Well, you reached them.
Well, what rule did they break? Why? So what's the call to action? Is it?
We also have that red thing in the corner, which is really strange to me.
Yeah. And then sign up for Facebook here. I mean, they just, the colors.
And then they have the play button.
And then the play button there. So I got confused on what am I supposed to push. It was like, what do I push?
Push the play button, because that's the center. That's where you're immediately looking.
Well, you're right, you're right.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are.
And it's a video.
Yeah, and you
So-
watch it and then you decide whether or not you
It might autoplay. I don't know if it autoplays. But then down here, they got like these two next to each other. But they got login up there as well. So am I supposed to log in there, log in here? Do I click the red after the play's over? Do I hit start? Start what?
Yeah, it should be. It's probably linked to a sign up through email. So I should say
Maybe.
that.
Yeah, something, whatever it is. We like writing the actual what it's going to do
Right.
on the button itself. It's amazing how that works.
Yeah.
One words are great if it's single word, but sometimes two words on the button works better too.
It's a company called Crew. The best is all we've got. Every single developer and designer on Crew is carefully handpicked to turn your mobile or web project into something incredible.
I want to understand right away, like how I would hire this person. Like, is it like Upwork, or is it like
Or is
I
it-
just hire their coders?
Yep.
Actually, it's me at my house. You hit this, it rings my phone, then I call Upworks and get you something.
Yeah, right. Might be. Might be. It's very, very general.
Yeah. It's not a big benefit in there.
Yeah, not a benefit. Guys ever heard of Scripted? Scripted is a database of copywriters. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. What does the company do is what I should have said.
Not copywriters. You heard of this before?
No.
No.
I don't
There's a
know if they're
copywriter.
doing
You haven't heard of
well.
it.
I don't know if they're doing well.
I think they're too scripted.
Yeah. Just says content creation made easy. Get content, get pricing. That was it.
It reminds me though that I'm often, when I don't understand companies, I often go to their pricing because I understand how the company is set up better from their pricing.
I know.
page.
That's that true. Yeah.
Isn't that sad? Sad that you have
They're
to
like,
do
are
that.
they a SaaS model? What do they do? You go, you click on pricing to figure out what they do. I
Yeah,
know.
you understand instantly.
And which is the last place you want someone to go.
I know.
You want to establish all the value before they even look at your pricing.
Yeah, right. I just did that. I looked at Kissmetrics. I'm like, $250 to start? A month to start? Paid up front? For a year? No, you know.
But wait a minute.
So one last thing. So we use usertesting.com almost every other week, every week. So when we do come up with ideas for headlines and copy, what we'll do is we'll put them in front of people to get external ideas. Put them in front of individuals like yourselves, but what we do is we'll sign up for usertesting.com. For $50, you can put it in front of an individual that fits your target audience. Typically, this would be consumer, not B2B, but we can put it in front of people. Your website will be placed right in front of them, and you ask them a series of questions. And they'll walk through your site, and they'll comment on what they, you know, you can ask them, what do you think the benefit is? What here is motivating to you? Is this clear? And you can get feedback directly from people that are not related to you, because people that are related to you lie, and they tell you all the things you want to hear. So these are people who are not related to you, will give honest feedback. And we use that quite a bit.
We're not using my mom anymore for feedback. It's not working.
So I don't know, does anybody use usertesting.com? Okay, you do? What's that? Oh, you do use Mechanical Turk for it. Is it giving you just as value? Because Mechanical Turk is going to be less expensive. Because this was $20. Now that I've raised up to $50, I'm like, oh. Is it good?
I started using user testing also. I just test on Facebook.
Oh yeah? How do you test on Facebook?
Well, it's paid.
Oh, you're doing A/B split tests?
Right?
Gotcha.
But you can't. Are you hearing responses on like feedback? Yeah.
On Facebook.
The click through and.
Okay, got it.
Right? Because
Yeah.
you're not being paid.
Yeah.
To answer me.
Yeah, true. And we're also using a lot of Hotjar for the click paths and videos as well.